Yeah. I mean, it is quite well known and quite well documented that it did mysteriously fall down. And apparently, from what they got some engineers to look at the footage, people that blow buildings up for a living, and they said that it looked like it was rigged to blow up because it fell down, like your American colleague said. It fell down within its own footprint, and buildings that are hit or explode through other means explode outwards and don't gravitate, as they call it, I think, in the trade.
Okay, well, David, we'll let you go, but thanks for bringing this up, and I now get Mike Ruddin and Neil Denny to talk about this. Mike Ruddin, or is it Ruddin or Rudin?
Rudin, actually, yeah.
Sorry, it's sort of the conspiracy files. Mike, tell us about this.
Well, yeah, there is actually, we're doing a BBC programme about it, a documentary coming out on BBC Two in June, and specifically on Building 7, Tower 7 it was. So it was the third skyscraper that came down on 9/11. It came down 7 hours after the Twin Towers. No one was in it, although that's, Alex would probably say somebody was in it, but there's been no evidence I've seen to say that somebody was in it. But it did come down, and it according to the official theory so far, it was due to an ordinary fire. But it wasn't hit by a plane. And no building, no skyscraper, no steel-framed skyscraper in the world has ever collapsed due to fire only. This is the first and only one so far. Yeah. So it's strange.
Is Alex right about BBC reporters?
Yes, the BBC reported it, and so does CNN.
No, before it happened.
Before it happened, yes, they did.
That.
Yeah, they made and we've spoken to the people who are involved in it, and they admit, they made a mistake.
So they made a prophecy. I mean, they
destroyed the tapes.
Yes, well, you'll find out, Alex, that we've found them as well.
Have you? So the tapes.
Okay, may I say something now?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, we just talked to the news presenter.
I saw it. I've seen it. Yeah.
Phil Hayton, and he said it does sound suspicious, but let me explain.
He was a bit. He couldn't remember it, could he? When I saw that interview.
Let me just say something. We have firefighters and police. I went to New York and interviewed them, but I don't just have firefighters, police, and emergency workers. I have them from the live local reports saying, "Get back! The building's going to be brought down. We're bringing it down." You can't wire a building in weeks to death perfect. Okay. The CIA ran the operation from the building.
All right, Alex, thank you. Let me just bring in somebody else here.
PrisonPlanet.com.
Okay, this is Ronald Wick. He's in New York. He's a broadcaster, well known in the US as a 9/11 conspiracy theorist debunker. Hello, Ronald.
Hello, thank you for having me on the show.
Listen, my pleasure. Now, Building 7, can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yes, Building 7 is a good example of a conspiracy theory unraveling. In the 6 years since these conspiracy theories have been swirling around, no one has yet adduced a plausible motive for bringing down Building 7. There's simply no way of fitting this into a coherent conspiracy theory. Now, in the instance of the BBC prematurely reporting the collapse of the building, well, we can cite instances the Pope died 3 times before he actually died. James Brady, Ronald Reagan's press secretary, was announced as having expired when, in fact, he did not.
No, but hang on a minute. But what's interesting here is they said a building had collapsed and it hadn't, and then shortly afterwards it collapsed.
Well, contrary to what Alex Jones has been saying, Building 7 was expected to collapse. We in New York were riveted to our television sets that day, and we were hearing that the building is dangerously unstable. The fire department had established a collapse zone. It collapsed. It surprised no one when it did. Now, think about this for a moment. Let's try something that a conspiracy theorist will never attempt, some critical thinking. The supervillains behind this conspiracy ask themselves, what is the network most implacably hostile to George Bush? And everyone says in unison, the BBC. And so then they say, aha, let's therefore present a smoking gun to the network that we distrust the most. Why should we do that? Well, we're wild men. I mean, why not do it? So then they approach the BBC with a script, and the BBC asks, I don't quite understand. Is the building falling or not?
That's not what I'm saying.
And then they say, yes, the building is falling.
No, that's
so the response then is, well, why do we need a script?
Okay, Alex Jones, yep.
Yes, I'd like to just add something here. No, we have fire firemen, police, emergency workers that said they were told to get back. It was going to be brought down in a controlled demolition. Then it falls.
No, you are not telling the truth.
Yes, we do, and you guys are being disproven. That's why everybody...
You are not telling the truth. The firemen did not say it was being brought down in a controlled demolition at all. That is an outright falsehood.
No.
They said the building was unstable and it was going to collapse.
This is it. We can't hear either of you. Right, fade Alex Jones out, please. Mike, Ronald, go ahead.
Yes, it's simply a falsehood. The fire department was not told anything about a controlled demolition. 343 firefighters lost their lives on that day. They were not complicit in this terrible, terrible catastrophe.
But maybe
to argue that they were is simply insane.
No, but maybe, Ronald, perhaps what happened here is people knew this building was unstable, so a warning went out, get out of the way because it's going to collapse. Is that...
Yes, that's exactly what happened. The building was unstable. The fire department established that. They set up a collapse zone, and now these conspiracy theorists are somehow trying to link this event to their conspiracy.
Except Ronald, it's interesting Mike, what you were saying there, that no building, no steel frame buildings...
No big skyscrapers ever collapsed due to fire alone.
So
and what's strange about it still, Richard, is that it was nearly 7 years on, and we haven't had the final official report. Now, and because that hasn't happened... We still haven't had the final report on it.
The NIST report's due this summer.
Yeah, it's due in July, isn't it? I mean, but because of that, it does allow. So it's one of these big things: is how do officials respond to people who say something untoward's happened? Because if there's a long gap, people fill the space, fill the vacuum with saying something's happened. There's explosions. We've heard it's controlled demolition.
It's such an unusual event. Maybe this is the first ever steel frame building to have collapsed because of a fire. Perhaps that's it. Perhaps that's the answer. Neil.
Well, just to answer that, I mean, yeah, everything's got to happen for the first time at some point, hasn't it? But what we seem to be forgetting here as well is this building had been sort of critically damaged by two huge buildings next to it falling on it as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
the thing is, 20-story gash on the south face.
But it is one of these things where, there are definitely lots of unanswered questions, or seemingly unanswered questions, at the start of it. I mean, another strange thing about Building 7 is that they actually... Nearly every bit of steel from this building was taken away and melted down afterwards. And there is actually, it turns out, there is one piece that's been kept. But you'd have thought, if it's an architectural first... It would be of quite an interest to most people to see whether skyscrapers are safe or not.
Yeah. So, Ronald, you would accept there's a lot of unanswered questions with Building 7?